You are all set to begin.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Newington Town Council special meeting for Wednesday, August 4th at 6 p.m. If we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we get started, just a note that our mayor, Beth Del Buono, had a family emergency that she had to attend to, so she will not be with us this evening. So Susan, if you can do the roll call.
Councilor Annis. Here. Councilor Braverman.
Here.
Councilor Budraco.
Here.
Councilor Camillo. Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Mankey.
Here.
Councilor Minor.
Here.
Councilor Nagel.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is public participation on agenda items only. Do we have anybody in queue, James?
We do have one individual on as attendee. If they're interested in speaking, they can use *9 on their telephone or the raise hand feature in the participants window in Zoom. We'll give them just a moment.
Okay.
Does not appear they're interested in speaking at this time.
Okay, and next item would be remarks by councilors on public participation, but since there was no public participation, we shall move right on to the business at hand, which is the Newington High School roof repairs. Everybody should have received the packet, and it was also discussed at our last town council meeting. So I believe the best thing at this point is to have our town manager, Keith Chapman, open a discussion. And we also have Mr. Jakimowicz from the board, from the school Department of Education to answer any questions or contribute his expertise as well. So, Mr. Chapman.
We do have Superintendent Clement as well, as Mr. Camillo has arrived at 6:02 for the record.
Okay.
Yes, the request that I received from the superintendent dealt with the fact that the cost of the roof or the replacement of a portion of the roof at the high school was going to be in excess of their allocated funding in the CIP program. So they asked for my assistance, and I did make contact with another roofing company and found that their proposal was significantly lower than the proposal that was received from the superintendent. So the cost for the original proposal was just under $500,000. The proposed amount from the second vendor that was contacted is just under $200,000. The main difference is that the $200,000 cost will not have any school reimbursement from the state, where the $500,000 cost would have had reimbursement from the state. So it's a decision that I asked the council to make to approve going with the $200,000 or thereabouts figure on the from Silktown Roofing and get the roof replaced over the next several weeks, as this roof has a tendency to leak, and any further leakage will cause further damage to the building. So, so the request is for you to consider approving the cost of the new roof through Silktown, which is, if you're looking at the screen, you'll see item J. It's identified as J on Silktown's proposal, but item E, I believe, on the proposal from the superintendent. But J is the roof in question. And so tonight, what we're asking you to consider is waiving the bids to get this portion of the roof done. In addition to that, there is a possibility that the section G that you see on the drawing would also be accomplished this year for about another $200,000 through Silktown Roofing. But there is a concern that the materials required may not be available. So we're asking you to consider approving going forward, subject to the materials being available. If they do not become available, then we will not go forward with that portion of the roof.
Maureen or Lou, do you have anything else to add at this time?
I can jump in and say that I concur with the town manager's explanation that this proposal does get us where we need to go at a much lower rate. I mean, as explained, it doesn't allow for state reimbursement, but we still end up better off because the state has much more requirements and loopholes that you must jump through to be qualified for the grant. So this is the better way to go. Getting it done this summer would allow us to not have to do a temporary fix. And as Town Manager Chapman indicated, if we can get the other section done, if materials come in on time, we have money in the board CIP to cover that amount. So it really is a win-win if it all can come together. And the board has been apprised of this. They did send a memo back to the town manager to concur that this is something they would like to do. And then they're going to have a meeting at the end of the month to memorialize it. But, you know, we are in agreement with this approach.
I have to say exactly the same support of Mr. Chapman's proposal here to benefit the Board of Ed. These are areas that need to be done because of all of the requirements tied on to building a set of specifications to receive school reimbursement. You can see the staggering difference in the cost because of that. And, you know, obviously the design standards that the state wants for where they will participate are fine. But being able to forego that and be able to do practical improvements at very reasonable costs are a terrific alternative.
Okay, thank you. And I'll open it up to council comments. Councilor Mank.
Yeah, it's just my understanding that this is a rush kind of for two reasons. One, we want to get this work done before the school season starts, or as soon as possible before it starts, or before it leaves. And two, it's the availability of the materials. We have the materials now to do it, but there may not be materials 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now, or a month from now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
Right,
why.
also, yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
To also add on it, Area J is the art department in Newington High School underneath that. And that area really isn't something we can relocate kids to someplace else because you have a tremendous amount of built-ins and resources that really have to be used in those locations.
Okay.
Area G is the aerospace, biomedical, genomics area, which have a lot more flexibility. So if we can't get Area G done before the first day of school, we are pretty confident we can modify things for the 1 or 2 week period that is necessary for the contractor to come in and do that work while school's in. But we can't accomplish that in Area J. Now that's the real critical path item.
And so that's why this is really a kind of a no bid contract. We aren't going out RFP. We aren't looking for other bids. We're just going with what we have because of those reasons, right?
That's
Right.
correct.
Thank you.
See, Councilor Minor.
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. In reviewing both bids, they are much different in their approach. Was there a specification provided to both, or was it just the contractors provided their opinion into the best approach to handle it currently? Which way did it go? Do you know, Keith?
Well, the Silktown was strictly a contact made. They came out and viewed the roof with the town staff and school staff and determined what needed to be done. And we required a 30-year warranty roof be installed. And so they did their own due diligence and came up with the plan that they would use. They did not see, I think they did, I think Lou did present them with some of the information from the first contractor, but this was totally independent. Neither contractor had contact with each other.
And on the
Okay.
first, on the higher price one, the $500,000 price, that was based on the hiring an architect with a formal developing the specifications exactly to the state standards needed to qualify for a grant. And that, because of the roof pitch requirements that they've added compared to where it is right now, we would have to do, repair and modifications to the parapet walls around these sections. You have to elevate the roofs to gain the pitch, relocation of drains, and all of the HVAC equipment would need to be temporarily dismantled and then remounted afterwards at their new elevations and locations based on the design package that's there. So it added a tremendous amount of cost to do that for the state grant.
Okay, and were both products specified the same? Because I know that Silktown is referencing TPO, where I didn't see any reference to material or mill thickness for the initial contractor. I just wasn't sure if that was to be determined by an architect or who was deciding that.
Yes, it was developed by the architect. I believe the product, TPO has another acronym. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. And they had all the specifications required in the spec book that they worked from. So I could certainly provide a copy of that if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, the two current systems are TPO and EPDM are the
Yes.
two. They're similar products, just the fusion of the way they're attached to the roofing deck system is
Correct.
different.
Yep.
And the last question is, the reimbursement for this would be what percentage?
In the proposal that Mr. Chapman's proposing, going the route of Mr. Chapman's proposal, there is no reimbursement.
Correct, but
If you went
on
with
the
the
first
500,000, we would be somewhere around net 50% reimbursement to this, until it would have gone in for the detailed finalization of costs at the state. You'd be, there's certain exclusions that they won't do again, like the coping around the edge of the roof. Some things doing with abatement on drains for the roof system. So there would be some exclusions. So I would think a net cost to the town of around $250,000 would result if we proceeded with the Matern construction program.
Okay, and just one last question, is the area the same area just referenced as two different alpha characters? Because that was the one thing confusing me
Yes,
as I was
they are.
reading through both. They're referencing two different alpha characters.
Yes, yeah.
No,
So
if you
Area
look,
E is in this area E is the art department. Area F is the STEM, aerospace, genomics, and bio and medical sciences, where here it's G and J.
Okay, thank you. So the same area, Keith, is essentially 200,000 or thereabouts for the Silktown estimate. Am I correct in that?
yeah, the J is just slightly under 200,000 and the G would be slightly over 200,000 if we do G, if the material becomes available.
Okay, so the reference between the two of J and E would be the same area for a net difference of about 50,000 cheaper with Silktown.
Correct. That's what it appears. Mhm.
Per section. So about, if we did both sections, assuming that the original contractor proposed, we'll say the same thing, $500,000 because of the size being about the same, then the total for Silktown would be about $100,000 less for the two sections in total.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And Silktown felt comfortable that there was no need to cricket the roof to pitch it, that the flat roof as designed, just modified to 3 inches would be adequate. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct. I did talk with them after about the HVAC systems and about the pitch and so forth, and they were very comfortable with what they saw up on the roof, that they could do the 30-year warranted roof for the 194,000 or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want it to be misrepresented that there's that much of a difference between the two because they're proposing two different projects. I agree with Silktown. If you're saying they're comfortable with not having to do the additional required work and be able to offer a 30-year warranty, then that's fine. But, my point is that the two different proposals are on polar opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of their approach. So that's why there's such a difference in the cost. That and the fact of prevailing wage, I believe, is also playing into it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Councilor Mankey, do you have another question?
Just quick, they're both, Silktown will provide a 30-year roof, right? And they'll guarantee it.
Yes.
And if we went the route of the Matin, I guess it was, and had to seek reimbursement, that would delay this project considerably, I assume, right?
Well, we haven't put in the grant application for it yet, but roof project typically is a 6 to 8 week turnaround time.
Okay.
So we would have to just perform all of the compliance elements that are there, and there'll be a slight delay on collecting the town's share of it afterwards, but it's not like with a major construction project. It's only a matter of a few months rather than potentially a couple of years.
Okay.
But we would
Yeah,
we would have to go out to bid for this.
Yes.
bid for it, which would delay it a little. Okay. I mean, if we can save, $50,000 and get a 30-year roof, it seems to make sense to me to do it. If you want my house, that's what I would do.
Okay, I have a question on the Matern proposal. It said one of the exclusions was that they were excluding hazardous material handling and disposal. Is that this? But I didn't see anything like that with the Silktown proposal. So would that have been an additional cost?
There is like some small identified areas that there is hazardous waste. The proposal from Silktown includes the removal of and proper disposal of those areas. Now, if they discover additional hazardous waste, then that will be at an extra charge. But we're assuming that what was already identified is all there is to be dealt with.
Okay, but that wasn't included at all in the Matern proposal.
Right.
Councilor Minor, you have another question?
Yeah, just in terms of this project as it is right now, I'm in favor to proceed with the area that we're discussing currently, but hopefully moving forward, we can do a little better job in terms of doing our due diligence in advance, so we're not rushing down to having to make an immediate decision. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other councilor comments? Okay, seeing none, are we ready to read the motion? If someone would volunteer. Anyone? Please.
I'll read it if you want. I'll read it if
Thank
you want.
you, Mr. Minor.
Whereas the town of Newington has been approached by the Board of Education regarding roof repairs to the Newington High School, and whereas the Board of Education is interested in repairing at least 2 sections of the high school roof, and whereas the town has solicited a quote from Silktown Roofing of Manchester, Connecticut to complete roof repair Area J as outlined on a quote dated July 14th, 2021, with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas the town also requested an additional quote to complete an adjacent roof area identified as Area G, as outlined in a quote dated July 23rd, 2021. And whereas Silktown Roofing has acquired the necessary roofing materials to complete the repairs to Area J with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas Silktown Roofing is working to acquire the necessary roofing materials to complete the repairs to Area G with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas the town council under Newington Town Charter, Section 814, hereby determines that it is not in the best interest of the town to require sealed bids due to the health and well-being of the affected employees and students within the school system. And whereas the town council hereby determines that Area J, as outlined in a quote dated July 14th, 2021, should be completed immediately, and that Area G should be completed once all necessary roofing materials have been acquired. And whereas the cost of the outlying roof repairs shall be funded through the use of CIP accounts. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council hereby authorizes Keith Chapman, town manager, to execute any and all necessary contracts with Silktown Roofing to complete complete the repairs to the Newington High School roof as outlined above.
Second.
Okay, motion read by Councilor Minor, seconded by Councilor Menke. Can we have a roll call vote, Susan?
Sorry, I had to unmute.
That's all right.
Counselor Anist,
Yes.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
8-0. Great, okay. Moving on now, I guess the next item is public participation. James, do we have any?
We do have one individual on. They've raised their hands. And they should be active now.
Oh,
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Alton Drive. I'm sure I've heard this roof discussed over the years, and I'm sure there's been repairs done to it. And I'm just questioning in my mind, how many projects like this are there out there that get discussed for years and years, and then we rush into getting the project done? I hope that going forward, that more time will be spent looking at what needs to be done and attending to it while it is a small problem and not a large one. It gives me chills to think about how many times I mentioned things and Mady mentioned things about things in the town hall, and it was all the answer was wait until we renovate. And now we don't wait, we just jump into it. So I understand the need, but I sure do wish that now that we have a facilities manager and we've got some direction from a consultant, that we go forward and prioritize what needs to be done and do it in a timely manner, not in a rush style like this. Thank you very much.
thank you, Rose. Doesn't look like there's anybody else, James.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, any remarks by counselors? Okay, I have one general, or I don't know whether this is the place for it or not, but I was doing a little bit of reading on, I think Councilor Minor called it PLAs, or the requirements and the contracting that we have to go through for getting state reimbursement. And I think as this project has shown, that necessarily state reimbursement isn't always mean that the town itself saves money. And also state reimbursement, it's not money that necessarily comes from trees. I mean, it's coming one way or other, indirectly or directly, it comes out of our pockets as either a property taxpayer in Newington, a state taxpayer, or a federal taxpayer. So I'm just wondering, in the future, when we go out for bids, should we always continue to rely on always seeking the state reimbursement? Or maybe there should be one or maybe it's done now, I don't know, one or two bids which are predicated on not going for a state grant, but seeing what the difference is. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, or
My only comment would be that I think each case is individual, and I think it has to be assessed by we now have two facilities managers on board, or will be very shortly, one within the school department and one within the general government. And these are professional people that will certainly help guide us in the direction we need to go. But the bottom line, we need to make sure that we are saving as much money as we can, but also meeting the demands such as this with a 30-year warranty roof, which would have been the same whether we went with the one vendor or the other vendor. So, but our facilities managers now should be able to put professionalism into this whole process and schedule the repairs prior to crisis situation, as was pointed out by Ms. Lyons. So I think we're on the right track of doing things in a more professional way and saving money along the way.
Okay, I see we have a Councilor Minor.
Thank you. Just there was one quick comment to that is in the standpoint of moving forward on a project like this, to go with a no bid could potentially go up or down project depending on who's the one looking at it, how they're looking at it, and what they're doing. Two is if these projects moving forward, there's more effort, time spent doing due diligence. There's not a rush. It gives the opportunity to go out and bid the projects. And if you don't get a successful bid of what you're looking for, you simply rebid it again. And that may be a better approach as time goes on and how to look at these projects moving. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Minor. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Braverman, second by Councilor Menke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone, for making time to attend this meeting. And we'll see most of you next week.
Yep. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.